Hey everyone, this is Dylan, and today I'm going to be doing a movie review for you guys. So the movie I'm reviewing today is Feast. So Feast was released on September 22nd, 2006. It was directed by John Gulager, and it has executive producers of Wes Craven, Matt Damon, and Ben Affleck. So it stars Balthazar Getty as Bozo, Henry Rollins as Coach, Navi Ruwat as the heroine, Eric Dane as Hero, and Jason Mewes as Edgy Cat. So one of the things that this movie does is none of our characters really have names. They are all these like archetype names, minus a few. Some of them have names, but for the most part, most of these are like archetype names or names that describe the person as they are. Which I guess makes sense because if you're in a bar situation, you're probably not going to know most of the people at the bar. So this movie had a budget of $3.2 million. At the box office, it made $658,573. So it was pretty much a box office failure. But even though it was a box office failure, they made two sequels to this movie. So one of the interesting things about this movie is that the production was documented in a reality TV show called Project Greenlight, and it was on the season 3 of Project Greenlight, which I believe aired on Bravo. And I would love to watch that, but I have not found anywhere that I can find this show streaming. I can find season 1, 2, and 4, but season 3 is just nowhere. And I just don't understand why I can't find it. So if you're familiar with anywhere that I could watch it, definitely drop it in the comments down below. So let's kind of get into this movie. So we start off in a bar in the middle of, I think it's presumed that it's the middle of the desert. I don't think they technically say where this movie takes place, but it takes place all at night, and they're in a bar in basically the middle of nowhere, so there's nobody around. And so that's why I think that it's probably the desert. And so we start off and they're going through each of the bar patrons, and they're showing some video, and then it would just freeze frame, and then we would get some like what their name was, some statistics. It was like their name, their occupation, fun fact, and their life expectancy, I assume from this movie. All right, so after we're done with the kind of character description snapshot things, then we start off having some random guy who wasn't in the bar before come into the bar with a gun, and everyone's like, oh, what's going on here? And he's like, there's some creatures that are about to descend upon this bar, and I'm the one that's here to save your life. And so they're like, oh, sure. And then he's like walking by a window, and all of a sudden the window breaks, something comes in, grabs him out, and essentially decapitates his head. A few moments later, a woman walks into the bar and is like, where's my husband? And her husband was the one that got his head decapitated. So then she becomes kind of like this person, and she knows all kind of about these creatures. And so essentially this bar and the patrons inside have to figure out how they're going to survive against these creatures that are now attacking them, and essentially they just need to survive the night. And that's where I'm going to leave the synopsis. I think that's a pretty good synopsis of this movie. Now let's get into the things that I liked and did not like. So the thing that I loved about this movie is that the creatures are all practical, and practical creatures can look really bad, but they can also look really good. And from what we saw of these creatures, I would say that they looked pretty good. So they were some pretty good practical creatures. You can kind of get a little glimpse of one right there. But I would say that the creatures it's kind of like a mix, the way that they look. It's a mix between the creatures from The Village, the M. Night Shyamalan movie The Village, and like the creatures from Independence Day. So in both senses, I would say that they kind of like these creatures like wear a costume, and it's like so I would say that it's like if the creatures inside the alien suits in Independence Day were wearing the suits of the village. So that's kind of what it looked like. I would also say one of the things that I liked about this movie is that there is some humor in this movie. So it's not a straight horror movie. I would say it's definitely maybe a black comedy, but definitely more horror than comedy. But there are some moments in this movie that are pretty funny. Now on to the things that I don't like. So one of the big things that I didn't like was the editing of this movie. It's alright until you get to an attack scene where these creatures are attacking people, because then it's jump cut city. And I don't know if that's because they didn't think that these creatures looked good enough, so they needed to do all these jump cuts so you couldn't tell or see what was going on, or if that was due to budgetary concerns where they couldn't show whatever accurately, so they just needed to do all these jump cuts so that you could not see what was happening. That was my biggest thing, was during these like attack scenes, it was so chaotic that you really just had no idea what was going on until we got done with the attack scenes and there was some sort of aftermath, and that's basically what you saw. So that was pretty disappointing. And I'm not 100% sure why that happened, but the only thing I could think of was budgetary concerns, unless that was a choice. And if that was a choice, then it was a pretty bad choice. And like I had mentioned before, the character development is pretty poor. None of these characters you really care about. So those were some of the things that I liked and didn't like about this movie. Now let's talk about what other people thought of this movie. On Letterboxd, it has a 3 out of 5. On Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 56% critic score and a 59% audience score. And on Metacritic, it has a 43 out of 100. So I would say that's probably about right. I think I gave this a 3.5. Watchable, but I definitely think that it could definitely be a lot better. So let me know in the comments down below what you thought of Feast if you've seen it. And remember, if you're not already subscribed and you'd like to be, please hit that subscribe button down below and give this video a like if you liked it. Thank you guys for watching and have a great day. Bye.